The more experienced and brave the warrior, the less often he shoots. And if he fires, he knows his target. Shooting in combat must be meaningful.
Right, y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. Okay, so today we're checking out something pretty cool. So this is someone going over a combat survival guide. I guess this was like published on the side of the Russians. I'm not exactly sure where it was published or where it was kind of, pushed out. But it looks like in this video, he's going to kind of go over it. And it is basically some experience from some of the Russian soldiers as far as how it pertains to kind of lessons learned during combat in Ukraine. Of course, I'm not in any way endorsing the Russians, quite the opposite, but it's interesting to kind of see what they think is important as far as like a combat survival guide. Now, it'll be interesting to see what they put in this and kind of compare that to my 7 years in the infantry. So should be a good one. Let's check it out. Jeez, that thing moves a lot. Some interesting kind of footage. Some tactics we're seeing there, and some just kind of, making do of what you have, what cover you have at least.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of B&B War Stories. I'm your host, Nick Laidlaw. Today we're going to be talking about a Russian training manual called I Live, I Fight, I Win, The Rules of Life in War. Yeah,
so this is the Battles and Beers War Stories YouTube channel, which I'm not familiar with, I haven't seen before, but I see that he has a Marine Corps pin and also 2nd Marine Division, which is the unit that I also served in.
This is a document put together by soldiers who have fought in Ukraine, and it's to be disseminated between like troops going to boot camp, those signing up, and those already in the military. I first came across this on Lethal Minds Journal, and I thought it was pretty interesting. The manual has 66 different points, and I'm going to read some of the ones I find the most interesting to you guys.
That's a lot of different points.
I'll include the link to the translated document in the description. This entire document was translated from Russian to English, so not all of it is translated perfectly, and not all of it will make complete sense to English speakers. Point number
So it seems like it's just kind of like a bullet style format, like things to keep in mind, not necessarily like how to do things, not like a doctrinal sort of publication saying these are how you should employ these tactics.
13. Don't hang around. The main unmasking sign on the front line is movement. A soldier sitting in a covered trench or a trench-like foxhole, and even lying motionless in a fighting position, is not visible to the enemy. He becomes a target as soon as he begins to rummage around in the position. If you have to move to the front,
I don't know about
do not
that.
wave your arms. Keep your elbows, hands, and weapons close to your body. This helps to hide the contours of your figure. And further, the active movement of cars and people in uniform betray the location of headquarters, warehouses, canteens, places of the accumulation of personnel. And this is a priority target for enemy artillery.
So I do kind of understand a little bit of what they're saying, especially kind of things that you look out for, when it comes to identification of a target. There's going to be a lot of things like shape, shadow, if they're silhouetted, the surface. There's a lot of different things to consider. And of course, like the silhouette of a person, like the general shape of a person is pretty easy to distinguish from like kind of all different angles. But even still, like if you're in a fighting position, that's pretty easy to identify. Generally speaking, you're going to, if you have some sort of drone in the air, you're probably going to be kind of strafing that anyway, just to see what is visible. And if you can kind of hear the drone, you might be able to like be kind of quiet. But at that point, if the drone is kind of in the air, it's going to be pretty easy to identify somebody, just because, especially inside of a trench, your camouflage it's not meant to match the inside of a trench very, very well. So yeah, in certain situations, movements, especially if the drone quality isn't that great, movement is going to give your position away a lot quicker. Kind of like he was saying, where movement kind of betrays where, a command post might be. The same thing is true with just general tracks, and tracks are very hard to cover up if you're moving kind of more than one vehicle, especially in any sort of field or vegetative area, just because it pushes down a bunch of plants. It makes it very easy to see the tracks. So unless you have like some pretty good overhead coverage, you're going to be able to kind of identify where people are going. The movement is just kind of like a confirmation of where they're at.
To avoid such places near the front. Point number 14. Bored? Wait, it's coming. Don't bunch up. The desire of people in moments of
Damn.
danger is to stay in a group, and that makes your group
That
a
spin
target.
was just like
The
unnecessary.
movement of even a small group in a column, one at a time, with an interval of 4 to 6 steps, arouses the interests of the reconnaissance drone operator and is guaranteed to end with an enemy artillery arrival. Afghan mujahideen, in order to avoid such a defeat, moved in pairs with an interval of up to 100 to 150 meters. Groups of 2 people are as conspicuous as a squad or a platoon and does not represent of great interest as a target for artillery. Point number 21. Signs of an
I think that this wait, it's coming seems like it was more about complacency kind of thing. Like don't be complacent, which is, it can be pretty hard, especially if you're in a trench. But what he kind of read off seemed a little bit different from that. I mean, when you're talking about moving in pairs, yeah, I mean, I guess it's not going to be as much of a priority kind of target as like a general formation of like a squad or platoon kind of thing. I mean, but that's just because it isn't. It's just 2 people. So, of course, you're not going to waste their time. But at the same time, you're not really well supported. You're not really going to get far just kind of moving in buddy pairs, especially when you're like 100, 150 meters apart. Because if those guys get contacted in any sort of kind of close engagement or close ambush, then it's going to be a bad time. And trying to sprint 100, 150 meters to get to them is going to be a little rough, especially when you have everybody that's at that kind of
an
interval.
impending artillery raid. The appearance of unmanned aerial vehicles in the sky above the unit may be a harbinger of an imminent artillery strike. The explosions
like a
of a
forward
small
observer.
smoke projectile near our positions means artillery sighting. The determination of installations for shooting. Paired bursts of shells at our positions, one with the overshoot, the other with undershoot. The enemy uses a fork technique for capturing a target in range. Urgently take cover or change position. Point 22. It is difficult to prevent an artillery attack, but it is possible.
And again, we're seeing a lot of like more nuanced stuff, like specifically these are the SOPs of, the force that we're going against kind of thing. So with that kind of stuff, it's going to be a little bit harder for me to comment because obviously, it's situation dependent.
Is possible. As a rule, the artillery attack is carried out on the pre-identified target,
Jeez.
so do not become a target. Disguise yourself. Fire correction indicates the presence of observers or technical means of artillery reconnaissance. Quadcopters can be destroyed centrally by the fire of the unit, even from rifle weapons. With light and medium UAVs, it is more difficult to control the front line of defense. Artillery spotters can be within line of sight of objects dominating the terrain, from which a good view of position is opened. Their presence is established by observers and suppressed by regular fire. Point number 23.
Yeah, having a forward observer is definitely a game changer, especially just because you kind of have that human element. You can pick up on things a lot easier. Kind of like with a drone, you have like a very fixed field of view, so you're only really taking in the data that you're kind of aiming at, while with, a person, there's a lot of other things to consider as far as like sounds. You have, of course, a wider perspective. It's much easier to scan. The clarity is going to be a lot easier. You don't have any sort of delay because you're kind of right there. So it's good, but at the same time, it does have its limitations. And having something like a drone, especially a drone that can pull a 10-digit grid, makes it way easier to be able to get accurate fire very quickly. Of course, if you have like a laser and you're on the ground, it's going to be pretty easy to get a grid too.
During an artillery raid, the main thing is to be calm. Ukrainian artillerymen usually fire in a series of 2 to 3 shots, 3 to 4 minutes pause to make adjustments, then again 4 to 6 shots to finish off. At the first sign of shelling, immediately fall to the ground or dive into cover. Do not try to hide from the artillery attack under the trees. The projectile will work when it hits a branch and forms an air blast, increasing the affected area. If you are moving, crawl. No running and panicking. If you come under artillery fire and mortar fire during the march, then leave the affected area at full speed. It is difficult for enemy artillerymen to calculate and conduct mobile fire. Stopping this, you turn into an ideal, motionless target. Help the wounded after the shelling and in shelter. Otherwise, you will need help yourself. Point 26.
That's going to be, dependent on the cover for sure.
Horrors. The advent of night vision sights, NVGs.
The night is dark and full of terrors. Isn't that's a Game of Thrones reference, I think.
including thermal imaging ones, gave rise to a lot of rumors about their exceptional effectiveness. In fact, all night vision devices are more useful as surveillance devices, but for effective fire, they are not very good. Too many conditions must be met in order to successfully apply at such a night light. Among them are the possibility of its fitting to a weapon, the state of the batteries, combat factors affecting operation, etc. The constant work of a night vision device tires and blinds the observer, making him a target himself. The pupil of the NVG eyepiece illuminates the observer with a greenish glow. Therefore, it is necessary to turn the NVG on only when necessary. To protect yourself from an enemy with night vision devices, you must first observe blackout procedures.
Okay, so as far as like, yeah, a night vision optic isn't going to be great. It's nice to have a night vision system that you can also just use with other optics. But that's going to be dependent on the optic for sure. Generally, like thermal optics are pretty freaking awesome for most of the day and kind of at night. It's nice to have a thermal optic nearby, not necessarily like 100% kind of thing, but those are a little bit more or a lot more flexible than just like a night vision optic. But yeah, you definitely do get fatigued depending on the type of night vision system you have. Having like the old kind of green night vision gives a lot more eye fatigue than kind of like the white phosphor, the newer models that you'll kind of see out and about. And the eye fatigue is rough. I mean, when you're looking at night vision for a long time, especially like, when you flip it up, it's basically like you were staring at a light because you basically were. It's illuminating all that light and putting it into your eye. So that eye kind of loses a lot of its night sensitivity and it's kind of useless. So once you're using night vision on a certain eye, you either need to keep it like that or be prepared to kind of wait a little bit to get that vision back once you do flip it up. And again, another thing, most night vision usually will turn off once you flip it up. But sometimes if you flip it up, you still have that glow. And of course, that's not going to be great for you if somebody else has night vision or just otherwise, because you can still see that green dot without night vision pretty easily.
Not light a fire or smoke cigarettes. In the night light, the light of a cigarette is noticeable at a distance of 500 meters. A burning match, up to 1 kilometer. The light of a fire, up to 8 kilometers. Second, don't make noise. Human steps on soft ground can be heard up to 30 meters. Coughing and speaking, up to 100 meters. The scream and noise of a running diesel engine, up to 1,000 meters.
Yeah, light and sound discipline is huge.
It is necessary to choose low or closed places for moving at night, to avoid light clearings. Move from cover to cover. And further, night vision devices are illuminated by bright light sources. A bright fire in the neutral zone, illuminating reactive cartridges launched along a flat trajectory towards the enemy, force him to stop observing and protect the lens of his device.
I don't know what he meant by that, to be honest.
Bullets are for fools. In combat operations in Ukraine, losses from small arms fire amount to 12%. Less than half of them, or 5% of the total casualty statistics, are dead. Such low effectiveness of small arms fire is characteristic of all recent wars. For one killed in the Great Patriotic War, there are about 25,000 industrially produced bullets. In Vietnam, that number went to 250,000. And this, by the way, is 2.5 tons. The low efficiency is explained by the psychological unpreparedness of the soldiers for a real battle.
Yeah, just sending a bunch of ammo downrange.
In the direction of the enemy without aiming. Number 29. Attention, sniper at work. So, on average, half a Ural truck of rounds is needed to bring down a fighter. A good sniper spends no more than 2 bullets on hitting a target. For this, snipers are not loved either by their own or by strangers.
Thermal optic
they are
is
a
game changer with snipers too.
The enemy is kept in suspense by sniper fire. Their own live in anticipation of a mandatory responsibility for his deeds. The signs of any sniper's work. Any bullet hit in the head. A hit against the background of sound masking. Artillery or grenade launcher shot, etc.
Okay. Interesting.
Selective bullet damage to an officer, signalman, or observer. A single shot into the wall near your position or any noticeable spot. Shooting a fighter walking last in the group so that those in front do not understand what is happening.
Yep. Classic ambush
non-fatal
technique.
wound of a fighter with the subsequent defeat of all those who assist him.
Some Saving Private
Shooting the
Ryan shit.
curious. Someone took the bait in the form of a specially planted goodie or a prized item, such as canned food, cigarettes, bottles, etc. The appearance of a quadcopter over your position during shelling. The second number of the
Mosin
sniper
the
pair is
gun.
working with him. He corrects the fire.
Is it?
Point
Jeez.
number 30.
Was that
Where
rifle?
is the sniper hiding? He is hiding in broken armored vehicles. Fire and smoke remain inside. The sound is muted. And at the edge of the forest, behind small shrubs or hanging down branches of trees, so that the flash and the smoke from the rifle do not go beyond those branches.
Wow, okay, that's pretty interesting. I wouldn't want to be in like debris, especially if it's like still smoking and stuff, because I mean, again, just like when you're talking about a sniper optic as well, it's got like kind of like this parallax effect. And if you have a bunch of smoke or fire, you know, that's gonna kind of affect it a little bit more as well. I guess generally speaking, you can find a good spot, but interesting to kind of hear them using that. That seems like some like World War II stuff. But I know in videos that I've seen, like a lot of snipers will set up in kind of old destroyed buildings, which have like, you know, some burning rooms. So if you're trying to look at it through night vision, you still have like the kind of glowing, the flashing from those small fires. So seeing like, you know, an actual rifle muzzle flash, especially if it has a suppressor, is going to be a lot harder if it has like, you know, those flames and stuff
In
nearby.
the window opening of a building, the sniper could be looked for in the lower right, away from you, corner. In the window opening of the building, the sniper should be looked for in the lower right corner behind the natural cover for him. In a trench under a fallen or specially placed concrete slab, cover from stray bullets and splinters. Previously, a sniper often used an artificial stump. Modern shooters use an old tire. 31.
Interesting.
Fight with an enemy sniper. It all comes down to finding the sniper position and pouring everything that flies, burns, and explodes there. Number 1.
That's one way to
Calculation of
do
the
it.
sector in which the sniper works. The most prompt is the report of the observer who spotted the shot. 2. Determination of the distance to the sniper's position. After determining the sector of the sniper's work based on data of the effective distance of a bullet hit, in the head, 50 to 100 meters. In the body, up to 300 meters. Fire, terror, shelling everything that protrudes up to 5 to 600 meters.
Yeah, the effectiveness is kind of interesting because you saw that a lot during the GUI. If like somebody's helmet got hit and, you know, either was at like a certain angle or they were just like especially far enough away where helmets, generally speaking, aren't rated for rifle rounds. So, you know, it usually, if it's a little bit further away or if it's hitting from a weird angle, the helmets can deflect it. So you did see that a lot, and you can kind of determine, you know, that they weren't within like 100 meters kind of
The
thing.
approximate location of the sniper's position is established. Number 3, sniper suppression. The best solution is massive shelling from heavy guns, mortars, or MLRS in order to plow the detection square. Very effective fire from regular tanks,
Remove
infantry
that
fighting
entire grid
vehicles,
square.
and armored personnel carriers. Volley fire from RPGs and grenade launchers or such exotic things as attracting counter sniper units will do. If they are there, of course. Number 4, anti-sniper prevention. Having found any suspicious position close to one's positions, suitable for hiding an enemy sniper, such as an embrasure in a wall, a gap in a wall, etc.
Just like get rid of it
One should
preemptively.
bombard it with the fire of tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, and armored personnel carriers. Number 32. How to behave in places where snipers are at work. Don't
Very
come out of
carefully.
hiding. Any
All the
movement
cover.
is only running from cover to cover. Identify places where terrain features favor the work of an enemy sniper, and put signs there with inscriptions.
Jeez.
Attention, enemy sniper at work. It saved many lives during the war years. The wounded by a sniper is evacuated from an open place in armored vehicles, only if there is no risk of its defeat from an anti-tank weapon. Number
Makes sense.
33. Don't snipe. Even if you are an excellent shooter and operate as part of a unit, do not conduct the so-called hunt from your location. The enemy will soon get tired of your shooting, and an artillery or mortar strike of retaliation will surely fall upon the heads of your colleagues. Operate either
Interesting.
as part of your unit or from a standalone position.
I mean, I know like when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, they were issuing, it's kind of like a M27, but it was like a squad designated marksman rifle. to each kind of squad. I don't know if that was with every unit, but I know that a lot of units were kind of going there, and that was for, kind of like counter sniper fire, to be able to have like a more accurate shooter in the squad, to be able to lay, kind of semi-automatic, but more accurate fire against a sniper. So that was kind of one tactic to use against a sniper, is kind of like counter sniper fire. But I mean, if you have a sniper to be able to conduct counter sniper fire, then that's going to be pretty nice. But yeah, you kind of need to be away from everybody else, or else you're just going to end up getting hit by the shelling too.
Number 34, your personal weapon. The choice of personal weapons for a participant in the special military operation in Ukraine is small. Most often of these are AKM and an AK-74 and their modifications. The 7.62 AKM is heavier. Thanks to a powerful cartridge, it is not sensitive to dirt and powder deposits. The 5.45 AK-74 is lighter. It's more comfortable to shoot. Even if you still have a choice, then it is optimal to take weapons for the ammunition used in your unit. Number 35. Problems of accuracy of shooting.
Basically, you got two options, and
properly brought to normal combat, a Kalashnikov
both kind of
assault
okay,
rifle
but
allows you
not
to
like
confidently hit
great.
the handle of an aluminum spoon at 100 meters. As for the complaints about the low efficiency of automatic fire, the main problem is the psychological unpreparedness of a person for a meaningful perception of battle, and, oddly enough, an excess of ammunition. A soldier of the Red Army reached Berlin with a wearable ammunition load of 70 rounds. Experienced automatic riflemen during the Great Patriotic War said that they needed one disc for 71 rounds in a drum PPSH store. The more experienced and brave the warrior, the less often he shoots. And if he fires, he knows his target.
Yeah, that's totally true. And that's something that was kind of a struggle as a squad leader, just to be like, what are you shooting at? Be like, well, we're taking fire, but like they didn't actually have any sort of identification of where the target actually was, or where the fire was coming from. And you just have people kind of shooting. Like, yeah, when you're getting fire superiority initially upon contact, it's okay to kind of pop off a few rounds just to give them like the oh shit factor, or, kind of question if they want to continue firing at you, depending on how much fire is coming at them. But at that point, then you kind of just need to identify where the target is, or else you're just going to, kind of waste ammo. And again, like he's saying, you're not going to be effective if you're just kind of sending rounds off in any direction, because you're just going to waste your ammo quick and not suppress anything if, you're not shooting in that direction.
Shooting in combat must be meaningful. Short, 2-round bursts, or single fire, especially while changing positions. Number 37.
Look at that loadout.
I don't see,
Jeez.
I don't shoot. Constant moral and physical overstrain, fatigue, and poor visibility, these factors of the battle seriously affect the psyche of a combatant. There is a desire to shoot at everything that can pose a threat. To shoot everything that moves, keep a cartridge constantly in the chamber, and shoot at every rustle. The result of such a science are killed and wounded colleagues. Usually they fire without seeing the target, unfired beginners or finished cowards. If the former still can't be taught, then the latter must be kept away. From them, threat comes no less than from the enemy. And also, crazy shooting, a great opportunity for the enemy to open our positions and inflict mortar or artillery strikes on them. Therefore, the observance of the principle, I don't see, I don't shoot, should become the main rule of any fighter.
Yep, for sure. It's something that I never, like when you're playing airsoft, it sounds stupid kind of starting off with something like that, but when I was playing airsoft, I mean, the guns are kind of like, they're pretty loud if you have like an electric gun, obviously not like a real gun, but if you're in like the woods and you hear like an airsoft gun shooting or going off, you can immediately kind of triangulate. But with airsoft, again, like you're hitting tree branches and stuff, so you need to be very selective in making sure you have like a clear line of sight, and you can actually get a good shot off before you pull the trigger, because otherwise, if the other person has like a machine gun, or if they just have like a more powerful weapon that's a little bit more effective with that terrain, then it's going to be pretty rough for you. So kind of playing airsoft helped me a lot with that. Kind of when I moved into the military and the infantry, I knew not to just kind of shoot just to shoot. I knew to shoot when I had a good shot. And that's nice because, if somebody's shooting in your random direction because they're trying to suppress you, and you're not shooting back, they can't triangulate your position. So now they're going to stop shooting and they're going to start stressing. And then, when they start moving up, they have no idea where you're at. And then you can get like the drop on them kind of thing.
Allow colleagues to hold weapons loaded, twirl them in different directions, or point them at a coworker, even as a joke. Maintain constant voice contact with coworkers. Don't shoot without seeing the target. Number 51. Dig in, remain alive. With an artillery attack, the chances of a soldier surviving in a trench are 10 times higher than that of an unentrenched one. And in connection with the massive use of long-range weapons by the enemy, the concept of front and rear are blurred. Danger is everywhere now. Therefore, those who really fought do not consider it shameful to dig a trench for themselves.
Yeah, that doesn't look like fun.
Trenches are dug at least 1 meter deep and 80 to 90 centimeters
Maybe don't invade
wide,
the country.
so
I bet they're having a lot of regrets.
Warming each other, and the raincoat tent is wide enough to protect you from the weather. Coniferous branches, straw, etc., laid on the bottom will save you from the dampness. If conditions permit, the trench is covered with branches, slate, plywood, sprinkled with soil, which serves as shelter from small fragments.
For sure. And yeah, like the pine needles on the bottom of the trench is pretty clutch. Even just like digging fighting positions for us, we would throw down pine cones and also pine needles. And that would keep, whenever the water kind of started seeping up or collecting, it'd still keep your feet a little bit, or a lot drier.
Number 52. Trench. 5 stars. Where the fighting has acquired a positional character, and the fighters are forced to live for months in damp trenches, if you are not lazy, you can get comfortable. To do this, abandoned vehicles are buried in the ground at positions. A minibus, a passenger station wagon, a bread truck booth.
How many of these are like just accessible?
Seats are thrown out of the cabin, the floor is leveled with flooring, and sleeping places of increased comfort are ready.
Jeez,
Precipitation,
look at that
cold,
trench.
and
Holy
shedding of
cow.
earth and groundwater is nothing to this shelter. And if the trench is well deepened,
Damn.
disguised, and securely covered from above, then it can be considered as a dugout of an increased comfort class.
Looks like so goofy. It's
Number
weird.
54. Signs. Garbage in position to shelling. The enemy chooses to strike the weakest link in our defense. Artillery strikes are inflicted on it. It is stormed by the enemy infantry and gutted by reconnaissance. Calculating the weak link is easy.
Oh yeah, we
By
see
the amount
that.
of trash, the position determines not only the number of defenders, but also the nature of the organization of the service.
Yo, for real, like you need to have some trash discipline if you're going to be in like any sort of trench or patrol base. You have trash all over the place. One, you're going to be like, it's going to give your position away pretty clearly. But then they're going to be like, okay, these guys are slobs. They have no discipline. Like these are the guys that we should go after. These are definitely the weak link in the formation.
Garbage is a direct result of low discipline. The mess in the trenches, linen on the ropes, rubbish in the parapets, the filthiness of the fields around the position, due to the lack of the latrine, speaks of the absence of a firm commanding hand and the uncontrollability of the unit, where everyone lives their own lives. And this is the weak link, which will definitely be hit. If you are unlucky with the commander, then the fighters must protect themselves. To do this, you need to ensure that garbage is always covered in your position.
Police yourselves.
If the trenches are located outside of the settlement, put the trash in holes that are covered with planks. If in a city or village, in a garage closed from the wind and concealed from the sky. Each fighter needs to work daily to strengthen the trenches and turn the position into an impregnable fortress. Only in this case will the enemy not dare to storm it, realizing that he will deal with a strong, spirited garrison.
Damn, that is a nice trench right there.
Number 58. Being captured is a bad, very bad idea. Soldiers are captured for various
Please don't
reasons.
surrender.
The wounded, left unconscious, or without ammunition in commanders. But most often out of stupidity. The soldier gets lost, he went to a village for cigarettes, or he fell asleep at the post. Sometimes soldiers voluntarily surrender, but this is a matter of psychiatry. The one who considers captivity as a way to save his life is mistaken. Being captured is a very bad idea. During the Great Patriotic War, 63.4% of Soviet prisoners of war died of starvation, disease, and torture.
Okay, well, I think conditions have changed pretty significantly in war. Again, it's kind of just like a weird propaganda point, like, definitely don't surrender. You might be a prisoner that we, pulled out of prison and gave, like, no training and stuff and put you on the front lines, but yeah, becoming a prisoner of war, definitely going to be worse.
More than half of the prisoners died in Afghan captivity. Ukrainian warriors also arrange hell for our military prisoners of war. Behind bestial cruelty towards our captives hide the awareness of inferiority and enemies' fear of the Russians. To humiliate a defenseless prisoner, to torture, castrate, kill, for our enemies is a kind of self-affirmation, and for us, an unacceptable practice. We don't torture prisoners. Save the life of the surrendered to the enemy, a charitable and legally correct deed. Number 59. There are no hopeless situations. Anything happens in a war. You can meet an enemy that is superior in strength, get surrounded, be left without ammunition.
Oh, this one is brutal.
The main thing in such a situation is not to panic. If you don't know what to do, drink some water. This will take the pressure off. Choose a safe hiding place and lie down. For this, a forest or field or industrial zone is best suited. Through them, then, is the task to break out of the environment. Try to wait until dusk. Firstly, in the twilight, it is difficult to figure out where your friend is. Secondly, an open sight on the machine gun is no longer effective. Often, twilight is accompanied by fog, and this too helps you stay undetected. If
oh, that dude must be so hot. Freaking just like burning vehicle right here. I mean, yeah, for sure. Definitely always fight back. You know, for these guys, they should really just, you know, kind of give themselves up because it's kind of pointless anyway to be doing what they're doing. But yeah, like if you're in a firefight and you're just kind of actively being shelled or fragged or shot at kind of thing, then yeah, I mean, it's going to be a life or death situation. So kind of giving up shouldn't necessarily be an option. So you kind of always just want to like make a decision of what to do, because if you just make no decision, then it's going to be very, very bad for you.
Change cover as soon as possible. It is difficult to hit a running person, even at a short distance. If the enemy is pursuing and you have no strength left to break away, organize an ambush on him. Turn around and shoot point blank. Burdened with the wounded and dead, the pursuers will lose all interest in you. Going out to find your own is better during the day. Less risk of falling under friendly fire. Until then, even if you meet our fighters, stay in cover, making sure that you see your own, attract their attention, make it clear that you are not the enemy. Only then do you come out of hiding. Do not give up. Never, never surrender. I hope you guys found that interesting. I just wanted to read a few points of the 66-point manual here to you. Reading the whole thing line by line would take several hours, and that's just a lot of video editing that I don't want to do. If you'd like to support me in what I'm doing...
Okay, so I'll put his video in the description if you guys want to check out the full journal or, you know, the full guide. It's in his video description, so I'll just send you over to his video so you can check that out. Just so kind of, you know, give credit where it's due as far as the translation and kind of doing all this editing and stuff. Yeah, so definitely a different kind of video, but a very interesting one to kind of have this document, I guess, that just goes over these lessons learned, things to consider. You know, if you're joining the military or you're kind of you're going to find yourself in combat kind of thing, things to consider. So again, it's nice to have stuff like this. These are kind of just like things that will be told to you when you kind of go to a unit and they've been on the front lines for a while. They kind of spin you up on stuff that they've seen, stuff that'll help you for your survival. But of course, that's only just like a supplement to kind of doctrinal training, getting the actual fundamentals of, you know, infantry or combat skills. So it kind of helps build off of that, and it's going to be nuanced depending on where you are. Kind of different from doctrine. That's supposed to be kind of all-encompassing. But definitely a cool video. Let me know what you guys think about the guide, or at least some of these tips. If you have anything to add or anything to kind of say against kind of anything that I said as well, definitely let me know in the comment section. Because again, I'm only talking from my experience, and I know you guys have a lot of it as well. A lot of y'all actually also have combat experience in this Ukraine war, so it's kind of interesting to hear that perspective as well. So if you guys want to share that, definitely throw it down below, and I think we'd all appreciate that as well. And at the end of the day, pertinent experience is going to be pretty invaluable. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. That is it for this one. I'll see you on the next one.